Teen Court of Morgan County is now in session. The Honorable Judge Schultz presiding. You may be seated.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Teen Court. I am Larry Schultz, and I will be serving as the Teen Court Judge for this evening. I would like for everyone to stand and identify themselves before we start. The defense?
Quentin Godman, defense attorney.
Jared Levi, defendant.
Kylie Hauser, defense attorney.
All right. Prosecution?
Katie Zacharuski, prosecuting attorney. Maggie Schultz, prosecuting attorney.
You, sir, in the yellow shirt?
Sheriff Vince Shambaugh, Sheriff of Morgan County.
All right. And Madam Clerk?
Emma Godman, clerk.
And the jury?
Marissa Padilla, jury. Amber McCusker, jury. Tiffany Padilla, jury.
Richie Sauer, jury. Daniel Schaefer, jury.
Very well. I would like everyone in the courtroom to rise and take the Teen Court oath of confidentiality. Do you solemnly declare that you will not divulge, either by written or spoken, language or sign, any information which comes to your knowledge in the course of a Teen Court case trial, and will conceal all said proceedings which may be held in your presence? Respond with, I do.
I do.
Now the clerk will swear in the jury.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will objectively weigh the issues in the case and render a disposition according to the evidence and guidelines of Teen Court? If so, answer, I will.
I will.
You may be seated.
Anyway, go ahead, Dave.
My name's Katie Zacharuski, and as Charlie said, I've been in Teen Court since day one. When I was in 7th grade, I'm a freshman at Berkeley Springs High School now. Back in 7th grade, I started Teen Court, so I've been on Teen Court for about 2 years now. I was the first prosecuting attorney for Teen Court, and there have been about 27 completed trials, and I've probably done about 17 of those trials. I think Teen Court has been a really great learning experience for me, just to go through the whole law system and learn about everything and respect of the court system. It has taught us public speaking so much. We learn how to talk off cuff and, learn the process of the court system and everything we need to know. I think it's an awesome experience for the defendants also, because as a mandatory sentence, they get community service and they have to serve on our jury for Teen Court. So I think that's awesome for them, because it rehabilitates them and teaches them things about the court system, and it gives them respect for us. And most of the time, they come back and help us as volunteers instead of, their mandatory sentence. So I think that's an awesome thing.
Seated. Now will the clerk please call the first case?
EC-11-1, State of West Virginia versus David Smith.
Would the prosecution like to give an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, on March 2nd, 2011, David Smith decided to take a sly approach of sneaking into the main office of Berkeley Springs High School while no one was in there. He wisely snuck into the vice principal, Ms. Tuttle's office, and decided that he needed to take her laptop. In a rush of adrenaline, he took a newspaper and wrapped the laptop in it. He left the office and was on his way to his car when he dropped the laptop, creating dents, scratches, and internal damage to the PC. Later on that same night, David was at his girlfriend's house, and he told her about stealing the laptop. Then, 2 weeks later, Darlene told Miss Tuttle about David stealing the laptop. She later asked David if he stole it, and he said he didn't. Then, Officer Shambaugh came and said that there was a witness. Then, David said, yes, I did steal it. That evening, Officer Shambaugh came to David's house and picked up the laptop. Miss Tuttle tried to turn on the computer and it didn't turn on because it was broken. Then, David admitted to breaking it. That is all.
Would the defense like to give an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Your Honor, on March 2nd, David Smith was sitting at lunch at school. He was called into the office. When he arrived there, it was empty. And on a desk, he saw Miss Tuttle's laptop. David comes from a poor family, and David saw this laptop and decided that he wanted to have something to be proud of. He wanted something that all his friends had. He wanted to fit in. So he took the laptop, and he put it in the newspaper because he didn't want anybody to see him, because he knew he wasn't a bad kid, and didn't want people to think he was a bad kid. And on his way out to his car, he dropped the computer. And scared, frightened, didn't know what to do, he just broke this computer. He couldn't return it. He just put it in the backseat of his car and hoped that it would all go away. That night, though, he felt guilty, so he felt that he had to tell someone. So he decided to tell the closest person to him, his girlfriend, Darlene. 2 weeks later, when he was called into the office, 2 weeks later, he broke up with Darlene, and he was called into the office again. This time, Miss Tuttle asked him about her computer. At first, David was frightened, as everybody would be. He didn't want to get caught, as everybody else would have been like. And he said no, he did not have the computer. But when Officer Shambaugh told them that he had a witness, he knew that he didn't want to dig himself into a deeper hole and fessed up to it. And he's willing to accept all responsibilities upon him. David isn't a bad kid. He's just misled. And by his testimony, you will see this. That is all you have.
Does the prosecution have any witnesses you would like to call?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to call Sheriff Shambaugh to the stand.
Sheriff, if you please come forward to the clerk and be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you will give in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, sir. That's right.
You're the sheriff in Morgan County, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you been in law enforcement office in Morgan County?
Been a law enforcement officer for 16 years. I've been sheriff for almost 3.
So, who told you that David took the computer?
It would have been Miss Tuttle.
And what did she tell you about the computer?
It was on her desk. It disappeared.
What happened the day you called David into the office?
Apparently his girlfriend Darlene had broken up with him, and she was upset. And for lack of better terms, she threw him under the bus. She ratted him out from taking the computer.
So David wasn't the one to admit to taking the computer at first. His girlfriend Darlene told the administrators, correct?
That's correct.
So what happened when you took him back to his house to get the computer?
He gave the computer up, but he didn't tell me it was broken at that point in time.
So then you figured out it was broken?
That's correct.
And he didn't tell you beforehand that it was broken?
Then
That is all, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Shambaugh, when you spoke with David, did he treat you with respect?
yes, sir.
Was he polite to you?
For the most part.
Did he seem like he regretted doing this? Regretted stealing?
He seemed scared, but probably regrettable.
By talking to him, could you say that he was a bad kid? Or just...
This is my only dealings with him. If you're asking that, I don't have anything in the past.
That is all, Your Honor.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
Prosecution have any further witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to call Miss Tuttle to the stand.
All right. Well, you may step down, Sheriff. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name's Corey Scheller. I'm relatively new to teen court, and I've heard about it since 8th grade, and Nathan and Katie have talked to me, and I was interested, but I wasn't like ready to pull the trigger. I wasn't ready to jump into it. Well, a few months ago in January, I was like, you know, I think I'm gonna listen to Nathan. I'm gonna go to one of these hearings, and I went in on a Tuesday with Charlie. We had some jury duty training, some attorney training, and I liked it. I was like, no, I'm gonna stick with it. Went to the jury, excuse me. Went to the trial, the court, liked it. I was surprised actually. I had the opinion, as most kids at our high school do, that teen court's actually just an organization that you actually have all these mock trials and everything's prearranged and planned. Well, it's not. You have to think off your head very quickly. As the way Nathan said, you have, excuse me. That's the way Nathan said, you have to be ready to expect change from the prosecuting attorney to change the story and what's presented in the case. And during teen court, it actually helps you be exposed to the real world legal system. Like what, sorry, forgot. I was going to say Debbie, but I wanted to sound professional and say last.
McLaughlin.
They
know me from soccer.
Like, we actually, sometimes Katie will actually go through real world scenarios like what you have to do, and it's very difficult, and the way she handles the situations during the teen court trials is actually great, because you can tell by the way the jury decides the final penalty for the kids. But during the trials, such, I've seen students walk in there, they leave different. They're like, wow, I didn't expect to get a punishment like this. I didn't think I'd be serving 22 hours community service, 4 jury duties. It makes them realize their mistakes, their actions, and they need to change. And getting kicked out of school and such doesn't help them. But when we give them punishment as community service hours, they realize that, hey, this is wrong, I gotta quit, shouldn't do it. It also teaches them, like what Nathan was saying, that they have a new opportunity to change their life, and their future isn't always going to be affected by this one thing, such as a status offense. It won't go on their permanent record. If they change from that day on, they won't have to have this haunt them further down the road. And I think teen court, what it does is it helps kids realize that, okay, if I take advantage of my life now, I can change it for the better, and it just helps them out.
And you are excused.
Thanks, Your Honor.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you will give in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? If so, answer I do.
I do. Mrs. Tuttle, where was the computer on your desk?
It was located kind of like right in the middle with all my papers and stuff, you know.
Okay. So it was visited?
Yes.
How much did this laptop cost for the Board of Education?
I believe it was around $439.
What kind of things were saved and stored in the laptop for you?
Well, I am a vice principal, so there were attendance records. I lead the Future Business Leaders of America, so there was an important PowerPoint on there that I was going to show to the Board of Ed. Personal information. I do teach a business class, so lesson plans.
Okay. So losing your laptop caused a lot of work and trouble for you.
Yes, it did.
How did this make you feel?
I was very upset.
Okay. Would you like restitution for this laptop? Do you think that'd be a very good idea?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Tuttle, have you had any previous run-ins with David?
Just a few warnings about his tardies.
Was this laptop provided by school? Provided
Yes.
by the school?
Yes.
So you didn't have to pay for it yourself, it came with a check?
Yeah.
When you say that you only had a few run-ins with him with tardies, he stays out of trouble for the most part?
For the most part.
Do you have flash drives? So did you save the information on the flash drives?
Some of my stuff.
Could you tell me some of the things that you saved on your flash drives?
I saved some of our personal information on there.
So, the most important stuff?
The most important stuff, well, I didn't expect my laptop to be stolen.
Okay. Alrighty. That's all, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Tuttle, should David have been in the office to begin with?
No, you should not have. There was no one in the office at that time. It was lunchtime.
So he went during his lunch out of area where he was not supposed to be, correct?
Yes, he did.
And you did say that most of your work was saved to your computer, right?
Yes, some of it.
And you had saved a couple things on the flash drives?
Yes.
But you didn't expect your computer to be stolen, correct?
No, because I expect all of our students to have good morals.
So you shouldn't have to save them to flash drives to keep safe, you know? Nobody should be in your office, correct?
Correct.
That is all, Your Honor.
Does the jury have any questions for this witness? All right, then, hearing none, ma'am, you may be excused. You may step down.
What
Mark?
types of trials, what type of offenses do you folks hear?
Well, we have a lot of, alcohol and drug cases. You often find really one of the most common ones are, kids get together for a party. Someone, decides to randomly bring beer and such. Marijuana, drugs, different things like that.
Well, we try not to do the marijuana through your court. Although I know you had the one that touched on the marijuana.
We did have,
Right, but for the most part, you're getting the charge was alcohol on that one.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
But go ahead. What are the other ones?
Yeah. Anyway, we also have fights and such like that throughout school. Really things really do get kind of intermingled. We also have snuff, and a lot of kids just bringing it to school. That's a big thing here in Morgan County. I'm sure you've all seen a group of high schoolers who have a round tin in their back pocket. What that could be, so we get a lot of things like that. As I mentioned, we're not dealing with the O.J. Simpson case here, but we are dealing with stuff that is pretty serious. Whenever you see those images of people who've lost their entire jaw because of chewing snuff all their life or tobacco, or the kids who started drinking early on and affected their development, or the people who got a brain injury from getting punched in the head really hard. We deal with some stuff that it seems small, could be really important later on in these kids' lives.
Any further witnesses from the prosecution?
No, Your Honor.
Does the defense have any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to call David Smith to the stand.
Mr. Smith, please rise, come up here and be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you will give in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? If so, answer, I do.
Mr. Smith, what grade are you in?
Junior.
At Berkeley Springs High School? How are your grades?
Average.
Average. So B's?
Yeah.
Do you have any A's?
I have an A in gym.
Jim? Do you have any C's?
I think about 2 C's, yeah.
Any D's?
No, no D's.
No D's. Do you have friends? Do you have many friends?
I'd say so.
Do you go over to your friend's house a lot?
Yeah.
Do they have things that you don't have?
Yeah.
Are they wealthier than you?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about your family background?
Well, my mom's unemployed, and my dad, he doesn't really make a whole lot of money. I pretty much buy my own things.
So the car that you drove to school, was that provided to you, or did you have to work for that?
No, actually, I worked a long time to save up for that.
So you were focused. So you know that when you're focused, you can do great things.
Yeah.
So you're obviously smart.
I'd say so.
So why did you take a laptop? Was it just simple? You wanted to have something that your friends all had? Your friends have everything.
So sometimes, most of the time, I don't feel like I am able to invite my friends over to my house because I don't have the resources to adequately entertain them the way that I'm entertained at their houses. So, you know, I just...
So you don't have friends over at your house often. Now, how do you feel about this whole incident? How do you...
Overall, I'm very, very sorry. At the moment when I did it, I wasn't really thinking. So then I couldn't have told you that I was sorry, but now, looking back at it, it is a regret of mine.
So, could you say that one of the main reasons why you took this computer was due to the pressures of society?
I don't want to point fingers. I want to take responsibility for what I did, and I'm the one who stole the computer. But I guess that would be the motivation.
That's all I got.
Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. David, when did you steal the computer?
During lunchtime.
And were you supposed to be in the office during your lunchtime?
Yeah, I got called to the office.
So was anybody in there?
Not when I got there, no.
How did you steal the laptop?
I picked it up and I saw a Morgan Messenger lying around, so I stuffed it in the Morgan Messenger.
So you were obviously trying to hide it so nobody could see it, correct?
Yes.
What happened when you took it out to your car?
Well, I must have not been holding it right. Stuffed out from behind and broke.
So you dropped and broke the computer.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you sorry for taking the computer after you took the computer?
I felt bad about it.
And who did you tell about, or who did you tell when you took the computer?
At the time, my girlfriend, Darlene.
And isn't it true that it was 2 weeks after you stole the computer that Sheriff Shambaugh and Miss Tuttle came to ask you about the computer?
Yes.
And did you know that Darlene was the one that admitted to it?
She would have been the only person to know unless somebody saw me. So, yeah.
And isn't it true that you denied this at first?
I did. I was scared.
And isn't it true that you didn't tell the truth until Officer Shambaugh said that they had a witness?
Yeah, because I didn't want to bury myself in the deeper.
And so when they took you back to your house to get the PC, they found that it was broke, correct? So you didn't initially tell them that you broke the laptop, correct?
Correct.
What was your motivation behind stealing the laptop?
I felt singled out of my friends because I was the only person who didn't have access to a computer.
So fitting in means stealing somebody else's laptop?
No.
Don't you think there could have been another way that you could have found? You could have found another way to get a laptop?
Yes.
That is all, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Yes, Your Honor. When your parents were contacted about you stealing this computer, how were you punished?
Well, I was grounded. I wasn't allowed to drive my car anywhere. And that was all my mom. My dad really didn't do anything about it.
So you were pressured by your friends. You were pressured by your friends to go out and try and fit in.
Indirectly, yes.
Indirectly, and you accept the consequences. You realize that was stupid,
Yes.
and you openly accept all the consequences that come your way.
I did.
And when you were called to the office and you saw Mr. Sheriff Shambaugh, what was your first reaction?
Well, I I freaked out because I knew what it was for.
And you were frightened?
Yeah, I couldn't come up with words.
So, being a kid, when you were asked about this, about stealing the computer, your instinct, no one wants to get in trouble. So, fear and panic sort of kicked in a little bit, don't you think? Would you say that? And then, why did you finally tell them, why did you open up and say, yes, I did steal this?
Because overall I did feel bad about it, and one way or another it was going to come out. So I got it over with that.
That is all you're on.
Does the jury have any questions for this witness? All right. Hearing none, you are excused, sir. You may return to your seat.
You've seen a demonstration of one of the things that these teenagers are learning that is indispensable. All of us, whether we go to law school or become politicians or become people who address conventions, all of us have to have this confidence in public speaking. It makes you a better citizen. Another way in which this is teaching citizenship to all the children involved is they're getting a feel for this court system. When they get a jury announcement or a notice that they have jury duty coming up as adults 10 years from now when we need them on our jury system, they're going to have an understanding of this, and their families will have an understanding sort of through them that's different than the people who get jury notices today, because a lot of them never served on jury duty. They don't have any idea what it means or how long it'll take. They have some idea, but I think the most important part of this program is something we perhaps haven't spoken about. Two things, I guess. If you went to a public high school like I went to a public high school, you know that the one thing that's always in public high schools is cliques and groups. And it's very, very difficult if you're a member of one of the groups to become a member of one of the other groups or to float between them. It takes sometimes a great deal of courage to float between them. But we all sort of know from our experience in life that those people who could work with all the different groups are the ones who are really getting a social education in our school system about what it is to be a community. We are taking kids who, by and large, in a good number of the cases, are in trouble, at least in part because they're with the wrong group of kids. And we are injecting them into another group of kids. And when we see them, as we do in more than half the cases, volunteer for more jury duties, that's because they're being accepted by that group. They feel welcomed by that other group. And now we have someone who's got a foot in both camps. Now we're moving toward bridging those differences, which